If you notice these things, you could be emotionally gifted because not everyone experiences the world on the same emotional frequency, and some people are naturally tuned into something deeper and much more complex than the average person might. Ever consciously understand, ever walk into a room and instantly sense something's off, even when no one says a word maybe? The air feels heavier or something inside you just knows without any explanation at all. That's not just being intuitive, that might be something much deeper. It might be an internal sensitivity few people carry, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly what it is and whether it applies to you, and possibly even how to honor it in your daily life rather than seeing it as a burden. Now, most people overlook the final sign completely. Even therapists or people trained in emotional wellness often miss this final layer. But once you understand it, the first five make a whole lot more sense, and everything you felt that seemed random will begin to align like pieces of a much bigger pattern. Let's get into it. 1. You pick up on tension. No one else seems to notice someone says, "I'm fine," and everyone moves on, but you feel that tightness in their voice, the forced smile, the shift in energy around them. You don't need to be told something's wrong because your emotional radar has already caught it. You're reading the emotional subtext. Like it's written in bold letters across the room. You don't just hear words, you hear the silence between them and the weight it carries within you. That's not overthinking, that's emotional pattern recognition, and it runs deep because your mind and body are wired to detect subtle cues that others dismiss, which gives you the ability to navigate human emotions in a way that's almost invisible to most people. True, you feel exhausted in emotionally loud environments, crowded places, chaotic conversations, surface level small talk. It drains you, and not because you're antisocial or lacking energy, but because your emotional radar is constantly on high alert. It's like standing in the middle of a dozen radio stations all playing at once, and while most people only notice the volume, you hear every lyric, every change in rhythm, every emotional undercurrent that others seem to ignore. And that kind of input, it costs energy, because your nervous system is processing not just words and actions, but unspoken emotional signals on a continuous loop. 3. People open up to you, and they don't know why. Ever had a stranger tell you their entire life story out of nowhere, or a friend suddenly spills something they swore they'd never share? People feel safe around emotional giftedness, often before they can explain why. It's not just about being a good listener, it's about the way your presence makes people feel heard. Even before they speak, something in your energy says, "I see you. I accept you," even in silence. And if you've ever felt this before, type exactly in the comments. I'm curious how many of you are wired this way, because this particular trait tends to show up in people who have experienced deep emotional landscapes themselves and often heal others just by being. For you feel emotions that aren't yours. You walk into a space where someone's hurting and suddenly you feel it. 2. Not sympathy, not empathy. It's as if their sadness enters your body and becomes your own, as if your own emotional borders temporarily dissolve in there. Sorrow blends into your bloodstream. This can be overwhelming, but it also means your emotional receptors are tuned at a frequency most people never access. Your ability to feel this way isn't weakness, it's actually an advanced neurological capacity that ties directly to emotional mirroring and sensory attunement. And we'll come back to what this really means, because there's a catch. And it's important you understand the difference between carrying someone's pain and absorbing it without boundaries. 5. You process events days or weeks after they happen. You leave a conversation feeling fine, then 3 days later it hits you like a truck. Something about the tone, the energy, a moment you brushed past suddenly feels heavy. That delay isn't dysfunction, it's depth. Your mind takes time to emotionally digest what others skip over. You're not slow, you're thorough, and in fact, this kind of processing is tied to deep introspection and emotional layering, because what seems unimportant on the surface may hold a deeper symbolic weight to someone emotionally gifted, and your memory replays that moment not out of obsession, but because it is still unfolding in your emotional awareness. 6. You feel things so deeply you struggle to explain them. This is the one most people hide or misunderstand. You've tried to put your feelings into words only to realize there aren't words big enough or accurate enough. You're not being dramatic. You're operating at a depth where language hasn't quite caught up yet, and that can make you feel isolated or misunderstood, even by people who care. But this inner experience is actually the real marker of emotional giftedness. If you feel more than most people even know how to, and when language fails, it's not because your emotions are too much, it's because they're coming from a place beyond most emotional vocabulary. This is where the human experience becomes less about analysis and more about awareness. If you've ever questioned why you feel so much, why your heart reacts before your mind catches up, or why others seem comfortable in emotional noise while you crave quiet, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're built to experience life at a profound emotional volume. And that is a gift. Even if no one ever taught you how to carry it, you might not have a name for it, but now you do. This is emotional giftedness. And if this resonates, you're not alone. You're part of a quiet group of people who feel more, see deeper, and understand things that can't always be explained, and that matters more than most people will ever realize.